Welcome back once again. Good morning. Still Daybreak Africa features tuned in. At this morning, we'll be talking about dollar influence over Naira, long-term effects on Nigeria's economic stability. Now, there's so much to talk about when it comes to the issue of dollar influence over Naira, and this has been an issue over time in Nigeria. And with us via Skype is Mmaduabuchi. He's a brand ambassador, business strategist, entrepreneur, Tony Lumelu Foundation alumnus. Good morning, Mr. Phillips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, quick one from me. How has a dollar dominance impacted the value in the Naira in recent years?
All right. So, first is the fact that we are a nation that is really dependent on importation to a large extent. All right. Most of the things we use in Nigeria is actually not from, usually imported, not really locally manufactured, from vehicles to electronics to quite a number of parts, even some food items and raw materials are all imported. So each time dollar goes up, it affects manufacturers and the average trader and businessman on the street.
You know, not many really understand this dollar Naira transaction. They tend to ask, why dollar of all currency? I mean, why the US dollar? Why not Japanese yen or yuan at this point, or probably Ghana cedis? Why not any other currency? Why the dollar? And it's more like, to some extent, we are so dependent on US currency.
Okay. All right, for us to do business in Nigeria and then be able to trade dollar around the other part of the world, dollar is the currency that is used for trade. You understand? And then as a country, that's what when we sell oil, which is where we generate our foreign revenue from, we depend on dollar. All right, dollar is the currency that we understand. So, and how do you get foreign exchange mostly as a nation? It's basically reliant on oil. When we sell our crude oil, we're able to get in foreign money to be able to do business. For those traders that might need, maybe they need FX to be able to import things, organizations, companies, traders. So they all rely on the revenue generated through the crude oil we sell as a country. And that is why dollar is that currency that is accepted. Okay. And that's why anything happens to dollar, it affects every other thing in Nigeria as well, in terms of pricing and economy.
Now, it's funny because from the beginning, we didn't have this weak currency in our nation. From time immemorial, Nigeria has been regarded as one of the strong economic powerhouses in not just Africa, but the entire world. We had a very strong Naira that could compete with the dollar or compete with most foreign exchange that you have all over. Despite our size, despite the fact that we have oil, good weather, for agriculture and all whatnot, our Naira, beg your pardon, continue to sleep and get weakened by the day. Can you tell us, in your opinion, how you think this dollar slide started in our nation? When did we begin to lose, when did the Naira begin to lose its value, as it were, down the economic line?
Okay, to respond to that question, we need to first understand as a nation, our economy is backed by largely backed by sales of crude oil. Okay, and then from let's just take it, not go too far, let's take it from year 2000, 2014, there was a very smooth outlook for Nigeria. The growth rate was at 7% economic-wise, and it was great. But from 2015, there was a decline in oil production, and then there was a reform in subsidy, and all of that affected that weakened the economy and affected the foreign exchange that we were able to receive as a country, and then automatically our economy was weakened.
I tend to wonder, what are more like the main factors contributing to the Naira's volatility against the dollar? It's okay, it's more like we tend to point out so many factors already, but I really tend to wonder, what do you think are the major factor, most reasonable factor you think that actually tend to bring about this volatility?
Okay, so number one, which we already established, is in terms of the revenue we generate as a country, all right, our economic power as a country, which is one. Number two is our production, okay? So most of the things we use in Nigeria are largely imported. So which means each time we import things, we also import poverty. Because imagine if we had you're buying a particular product in Nigeria, made in Nigeria, and the whole raw material source in Nigeria, the dollar doesn't get to disappear from, our money doesn't get to disappear from Nigeria, and then we're able to create job opportunities for people. So that's number two. One is the oil, crude oil. Number two is the fact that we have a lot of importation. We depend on importation as a nation. Number three is local content is not strong enough. So more than ever before, we have a high unemployment rate, youth unemployment rate, which is about 42.6% as of today. So when we have large number of unemployed people, it also affects our economy as a nation.
Now, I tend to wonder, you talk about our local products and then the need to import. Is it more like one particular challenge affecting the other? So it's more like a yin-yang, not really one doing without the other. Because it's more like probably the lack of local product is causing us to import, or is importation that's causing us to have low local products?
Okay. They are interwoven in a way.
Okay.
So I'll put it this way. If we have, by having a productive human capital and a very productive economy, we don't have to depend on importation per se. Not that we'll not do imports, but then it won't be this much, where dollars, we have to now start sourcing for Nairas. So now be other nations bringing their dollars to come buy for us. And then that means first, we're creating more jobs in Nigeria. Secondly, is the fact that we're not able to have more forex in the economy, and then it's cheaper and easier for Mr. Maker or Mr. Lekon that needs forex to be able to trade on the global markets. In the absence of us generating this adequate revenue, or having not really putting our human capital to use, and then it's affect our economy generally.
Okay. All right. So talking about our economy, it's been said that the overdependence of the Nigerian government on forex, which is dollar in quote, may just be the genesis of our problems. Like you rightly told us, being a mono economy, we sell our crude oil to other nations, and the payment is usually done in dollars. So analysts argue that the fact that the Nigerian government depends solely on dollar, that there's huge dependency on dollar, that is what has trickled down to the society. I don't know if you agree with this.
Okay. Yeah, I agree to that. And that's why as a nation, we have to start looking at how to ramp up. In fact, the oil production capacity that we currently have is not enough to sustain sustain the kind of growth we desire as a nation. It's high time we start looking at other non-oil generating parts of our economy and start boosting those areas as well. Start paying attention to our human capital. As well, the largest population of black country in the world, and then the largest in Africa, we should be leading in terms of economy, in terms of innovation. But the challenge is our people are not put into, are not gainfully employed. The job opportunities are really not there, and that has caused a high level of poverty, which is currently at about 42.5% right now. And then, so as much as possible, one of the things the government needs to do is, and I think this current administration is trying to look into that, looking at empowering artisans, looking at empowering those in the creative economy, and cover other things. So I believe with this effort and more, we could boost other areas of generating revenue for the country. Now, in terms of looking at oil sector.
Let's go back to the table of importation and having our local products. Now, the last administration, President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, he took a bold step. He tended to cut every route of importation, you know, causing us to want to venture into agriculture for ourselves and all that. But that story didn't exactly end up really fine. I mean, we're both Nigerians, so we know how it ended up. So I tend to wonder, how then are we going to stop importation at the same time increase our local produce without having such effects as the last time?
Okay, yeah, you raised a very strong point there. What happened the last, when the initial policy was released at that time, and that didn't go as planned, like you said. But I think it's the way the implementation was being approached. It was a fantastic strategy, but it was just the implementation approach that didn't go well. So for me, it's not okay that you just say, shut down everywhere, no importation, let's get the local economy working, let's get our local production working. You know why? Because it's going to take time. When you plant corn today, it's going to take a couple of months for it to grow, get to the point where it now bears fruit, so we can now harvest this corn. Same with rice, it's going to take a period of time for that to happen. So I think there's supposed to be a way of relaxing relaxing things and then making the local production match with the importation, then gradually reduce importation. Then give more incentives to those who are in the local content.
It sounds rather too simple. Yeah. Is there any other modification? It just sounds too simple. I don't know if it's just too simple to be true.
Let me just point out a thing. So if you look at it now, our current president recently said, okay, for next 6 months, a number of products, they're not going to tax a certain number of products and the likes, increase importation, at least let's have more food, let's have certain necessary products and items that the economy needs to run. So why this is ongoing, despite the fact that it's supporting the local economy in terms of giving some form of funding to those in the skill area, industry, or informal sector as well. What he's trying to do, from my own view, is that at the end of the day, he knows that the local economy will not pick up, local production will not pick up overnight. And then for us to be able to balance things, they have to open up the market for importation. And there's a window to it for 6 months. So with this, we're able to cushion the effect of saying, oh, let's switch to local content, let's boost local production. I don't know if that really answers your question.
It's fine.
Now talking about local production, some days ago we had a guest on the show via Skype who was speaking to us all the way from Italy, and is a Nigerian in diaspora, and he was trying to make us understand the fact that the bulk of the food that they eat in Italy is produced in that nation. You know, they import just a few goods into Italy. He was trying to compare Italy with what obtains in Nigeria. Again, someone told us that in Canada, you can't just bring in clothes, bring in shoes. In fact, you are not allowed to bring in certain goods into Canada because they produce enough for the people. And the idea is, if you bring in from outside, who will buy the things they produce locally? So that is like a way of building the economy internally. And sometimes people can get into trouble bringing in certain goods into the country. There's so much embargo on that. Don't you think it's high time Nigeria begin to look inward towards building local content that you say someone has to bail the cow? But how do we begin to do that, since over the government depends so much on dollar and we'll become a nation that is going crazy. There's so much frenzy for the US dollar. How do we bail this cow? How do we begin to produce local content to the extent that we begin to go far away from so much dependence on the dollar?
Okay, so what you rightly said is straight to the point, and the question is something we need to address. So personally, we can get things to work, and then the government can as well say, oh, certain products, shouldn't be imported, maybe place some bans, increase some tariff, increase some taxes on some kind of products or items, then give incentives to those producing locally. But do you know the challenge is that most of the raw material we still need, for some reason, are not available in Nigeria, or they are not in the states where it can actually be utilized for local production. So even if we say, okay, let's say for instance farming, for I really want to do agriculture in a big way, you're going to need tractor. And most of this you need to import. Some of these seedlings too are not even available in Nigeria. You have to import as well. The fertilizers, the herbicides and a few other things they need to be imported. The machines that we use to process most of these products are also imported and dependent on oil. Dependent on dollar, which is automatically dependent on oil. All right, so moving forward, we have to look at what our action will be like on short term, while also looking at the long term. Now, most of the reforms that we are seeing the current administration implement, we might not really get the immediate results. So some of them are going to take time to mature, and then just like when you go to farm to plant, you have to give it time. So whatever strategy we are implementing, we need to put into consideration that this is going to take time to become effective, and then look for other strategies to cushion the immediate effects. So that's why the local woman in the market will not complain and say, oh, cost of living is too high, the poverty line will not keep going up and up. Forests will not be much of difficulty, at least for instance, can start reducing. Then we can look at our oil production capacity. We currently do about 1.3 million barrels per day. So could we move it to 2 million barrels per day and other things like that?
Okay.
Yeah, so the government will have a lot of role to play here.
Okay. All right, if you just joined us, this is Daybreak Africa, where we're taking a look at dollar influence over the Naira, its long-term effect on the stability of the economy. We'll take a short break. When we return, the discussion will continue. Stay with us. Welcome back. It is still Daybreak Africa, where we're taking a look at a very, very important topic, which is dollar influence over the Naira, its long-term effect on economic stability. And our guest is still with us. So I want to start by reading something short. It says, investors remain wary of bringing hard currency into the country as dollar shortages have made it difficult for businesses to repatriate revenues to their home countries. Now, this has become a huge problem, not just for Nigerians, but also those we do business with from outside the country. Mr. Phillips, like you rightly said, we had a guest on the show who again told us that production gets difficult because most of the raw materials are gotten from outside the shores of the country. My question now is, for a nation as big as Nigeria, the biggest black nation in the world, we are one of the most intelligent people in the world. We have the technology, we have the mind to be whatever we want to be. How come we can't produce most of the things that we import into the country? How come we can't be like India, for example, that produce most of the machinery that they use for their day-to-day living, even to agriculture. So we can cut, if not totally, but almost completely our dependence on the US dollar, as it were.
Okay, so we are going to see a lot of that happening in Nigeria as we go, and this is largely dependent on the fact that the present administration they are listening to the citizens in a way. You can see this from the angle of, okay, the reforms that are being made, the policies and the likes. And there's some of the policies somehow can be questioned by a lot of Nigerians. They're like, oh, why bring back this particular thing? Or why have this policy? Doesn't favor the general public. But coming back to the fact that, okay, what do we need to do as a nation to reduce our dependency on oil and automatically dollars and then importation, especially. So the one thing is come up with as many reforms as possible that is targeted towards the economy, boosting the economy and growing the economy. Come up with strategies that won't just be about giving bread to those that need it or giving handouts just for people to feel okay for a while. So beyond that, there have to be solutions that are self-sustaining, all right? And we can achieve this through, one, boosting the non-oil sector. And then that will also help in terms of our own local production.
Now, we know for a fact our overdependence on the dollar will at some point lead us, I don't want to use the word definitely, but at some point will lead us to our doom. I think to wonder, what do you see as the, should I say, likely potential consequences for our continued over-reliance on the dollar, you know, the consequences as impact upon our society, upon our economy as a country?
Generally, if our local production is okay, maybe from the oil angle, even though the world generally is trying to look at the fossil fuel, is that really the future? There's a lot of questions around that, but based on projection, I mean, till 2050, there'll still be needs for fossil fuel, even though the world is gradually coming to policy to reduce that. But that is what we have now, and we just have to hold it very well.
I see you speak a lot as regarding our oil. It's more like you really have faith in our oil. Do you think our oil is really our savior?
Currently, that's the major thing we have. Currently, that's the major thing we have now. And until every other thing that the government is putting into place right now, in terms of reform,
is it more like the major thing we have now, or is the thing we tend to explore now?
No, that's not the only thing. That's the major thing, because we still have those who are in the agricultural space exporting products like soya beans, cotton, cocoa, you know, quite a number of products, a number of precious stones, quite a number of other mineral resources that we have. And among other things, and then we also have our productive youths who are also in diasporas, sending remittances back to Nigeria. You understand? Just that this are not enough. We just need to do more.
Now, before the discovery of oil, agriculture was our mainstay. With agriculture, we built the nation. We have evidence or evidences of the fact that we're able to sustain ourselves, we're able to build universities, we're able to tar roads, we're able to build infrastructure through agriculture. The first television house in Africa over before France was built using proceeds from agriculture. So it's a bit confusing that since the discovery of oil, every other thing has taken the back burner, including agriculture. It's funny because for a country blessed with so much land mass, not just land, we're talking about arable, fertile land, a country that doesn't have natural resources. We have clement weather to actually farm and produce enough food, not just for ourselves, where we can actually feed half of our continent. How come oil has blinded our eyes and we now see that as the major source of income, being blinded to every other thing? How do we change this story?
So how we change this story is to support the private sectors to become more productive, and that way they can create job opportunities, support the youth to be able to go into entrepreneurship, work on empowering more sense, create policies to enable the business in Nigeria to be able to do business in Nigeria, and then of course also look at making the business environment more conducive for investors to come in, because you need a lot of direct finance into the economy. You understand? So with more DFI, it means there'll be more job opportunities. People can be empowered. Poverty line can drop to a large extent. And it has been projected by the World Bank that by between 2029, that Nigeria will be more stable, it will have a more stable economy. And based on their report as well, they said between 2024 to 2025, we might see some increases in terms of poverty line. There might still be some instability between 2024 and 2025. But from 2026 to 2029, it's predicted there will be more stability. So
Indeed.
at the end, in summary, it's about looking at the policy. It's about educating the youth and letting them understand that they also play a major role in helping develop the nation, and then changing the mindset of an average youth in Nigeria that just want to do or make it overnight, and then let them know that there's dignity in this thing, and when it comes to either building a company, building a brand, creating the solutions that help create job opportunities, empower people, and all of that. Then our universities too need to help. Those in the educational sector, they need to really help by supporting our youth with knowledge and timely information that are relevant to the work, to the global market, that are relevant to the future of work. The kind of education that will be relevant to the future of work in Africa and around the world.
Indeed, dollar dominance.
The private sectors.
Phillips,
yeah.
Indeed, dollar dominance has tended to impact Nigeria just so much. I tend to wonder just how much has this tended to impact our ability to implement independent monetary policies.
Currently, one of the challenges we have as a country is the fact that there are a lot of debts as a country that we need to pay, and then that we service as a country. 50% of the oil crude that we produce in Nigeria is not for us. So it's only half of it that is for us, I understand. And then that is where we generate our revenue from. So how to tackle your question, what we just say in a summary is the fact that we need to I was in a room where there were large discussion, high-level conversation by those who are in key positions in the private sector, and then those who represent the government. And they pointed a number of things. They say, okay, for instance, that Nigeria needs to start looking at renewable energy, that there's so much money there for us as well. And they also said something around saying the fact that one of the challenges that they don't have those with the technical capabilities. And then that is also affecting us. And then they said something around oil, that the crude oil that what as a nation is trapped under the ground. And then the oil we need is still under the ground. This is something that is a bit complex, and I'm unable to break it all down in this conversation.
So as we begin to round up today,
for now, what I can say is that.
Okay, please go on. Are you done, Mr.
Okay, so what I can say is that for now, no. So what I can say is for now that if we're able to get our oil production right, why I keep going back to that is because that's what we have now that can quickly give us, the level play field for us able to push other things, and then for those that are in other sectors and not in the sectors can also leverage on that to grow and start developing.
Okay, so because of time, I did want to ask two questions. I wanted to ask the fact that, referring to what Ezekiel said when we started our conversation, he talked about the dollar falling to as much as 1,100, and by today or eventually it keeps rising. It's over 1,500 Naira. But the irony of it was that while it was 1,100 by the banks, on the street it was 1,500 Naira. While it fell to 1,100 by the banks, it was 1,500 and more on the streets. Why do we have these discrepancies in a country, that is supposed to have policies on issues like this?
So the challenge is when people need forex and they can't get directly, they start looking at other sources, and that creates these discrepancies that we see generally. For someone that must import, someone that needs to execute a contract and need this forex to be able to work with, and especially we're going to bring in some other people from that part of the world, and then they say, oh, you know what, you pay us in dollars and that. So absence, they have to just source the forex from anywhere, any angle. So anyone that has it can say, okay, give me, okay, I was in the same room where I was. Somebody said that, there are some, he raised a very important point. He said for them because in the oil space, he said they don't have issue with the rates, the exchange rate per se, whether it's 1,000 or more or lesser. But the problem is the fact that there's no stability. You can't really make decisions. You can't budget well. You can't, So if they can peg it to a uniform rate, then it works for those in business space.
So in a nutshell, as we round up, Mr. Stevens, in your opinion, if this continues, what effect do you think this will have on our economy on the long run, on our economic stability on the long run, if we do not stabilize?
Okay, so that will increase based on the report from World Bank, it said the poverty line will increase, things like that, and they're looking at, okay, most of the reforms and most of the change in policy should start having strong effects from 2026 upward, and that will help start reducing the poverty line. So I think we just need to put our hands on deck and do what we can do in our positions and sectors or marketplaces to see how to contribute to the economy. Otherwise, the poverty line will keep going up. However, with the work that the government is doing, we believe that with time, between now and 2026, we should see a lot of improvements in the economy.
Well, that's all time will permit on this interview today. We want to appreciate you once again for being a guest on Daybreak Africa.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, so that's all we can take, ladies and gentlemen, from the other side. Our discussion today, a look at dollar influence over the Naira, its long-term effect on the economy, the stability of the Nigerian economy, and our guest has done justice to that topic, Philip Mmaduabuchi. We appreciate you. My name is Anire Binitie. For my end is stay safe and bye for now. Ezekiel.
Have a great day. I remain Ezekiel. Okay.